A very good evening to all yogis. So this evening, I shall continue to discuss about the noble truth. So the first noble truth, or the truth of suffering, dukkha satya. The Buddha say, this is the Dharma that should be fully understood. The second noble truth, samudaya satya, or the noble truth for the cause or the origin of suffering, is the Dharma that should be fully abandoned. The third noble truth, nirodha satya, or the noble truth or the cessation of suffering, is the Dharma that should be fully realized or fully experienced. And the fourth noble truth, magga satya, the noble truth of the way or the path leading to the cessation of suffering, is the Dharma that should be fully developed. So, if one aspires to attain the cessation of suffering, then one must overcome or abandon the cause of suffering. The commentary explains that these teachings, like the behavior of a lion, it is said that when a hunter or anyone shooting an arrow towards the lion will not go after the arrows. The lion will direct their strength towards the man or anyone who is shooting the arrow at the lion. So in the same way, the Buddha deals with the cause, not with the fruits. So in other words, the Buddha taught that to attain the cessation of suffering, one should deal with the cause. So in other words, when the cause, which is tanha or craving, ceases, then the fruit, which is suffering, also ceases. So similarly, when we face any problems in life or in works, if one can find out the cause, then definitely there will be solutions. So we have to be brave enough or face the cause. So there are three kinds of tanha or craving, or attachments for desirable objects. The second is bhava tanha. So this bhava tanha usually translated as craving for existence in English. But this translation may not be accurate. The word bhava here means taking things to be eternal or to be permanent, everlasting. So this bhava is related to the view of eternity. So bhava tanha means craving, which is associated with the eternity view. So craving for existence can be included under kama tanha, or craving for desirable objects. For example, one may have craving for absorption concentration, because that experience absorption is very blissful. So that jhana is also undesirable object. So, for example, some may craving for formless dhyana, where one is attain very deep concentration, the material form disappear. So this is also an object, a desirable object. Then the third kind of tanha or craving is known as vibhava tanha. So one has the notion that beings is annihilated at death. That means there is no more life after death. So, in other words, this craving is associated with annihilation view. So, if one, as I have explained, if one rightly understands the teaching of conditionality, dependent origination, then you know that these two views, eternity view, sasataditi, annihilation view, uchedaditis, are wrong view. So, tanha or craving, attachment is the cause of suffering, and it's not easy to overcome. The stronger the attachment or craving, it may result in stronger suffering. It is said in the teaching that if a person has a strong attachment to sensual pleasures, then that person may not interested in spiritual training. Most of the worldlings are flowing with the currents of sensual pleasures. But the Buddha always say that his teaching is against the currents. So as long as one could not fully understood the truth of suffering, then one would not make an effort to overcome it. The late Venerable Marcy Sador told a story in his book, Nibbana Patisamyutta Kata, on the nature of Nibbana. He said, a very devoted man, always pray before the image of the Buddha. He prayed that he could reach Nibbana as soon as possible. So do you pray that you could reach Nibbana? You do not pray to reach Nibbana, then you cannot reach Nibbana. That means you still like attachments. So his friend, a joker, hearing his, knowing his frequent prayers, so one day he was hiding behind the image of Buddha. So this devoted man came to say the prayers again. So he say with a loud voice or a thundering voice, you have been praying for long enough. Today I'm sending you to Nibbana. So do you think this man will go to Nibbana? So maybe he got a shock. Then he replied, well and good, but let me go back home to consult my wife. So he went home. So he thought his wife's advice. So his wife said, what a lucky man. Don't hesitate. Go quickly. But this man still hesitates. He said, consider whether you can run the house without me. So his wife answered, go, do not worry. There's no need for you to consider it. So this man say, oh, even though you don't consider about it, I will consider about it. So Mahasi Sayadaw said this may not be a true story. So when one has a lot of attachments or craving for sensual pleasures, then one is not interested in these spiritual trainings, or such as meditation and so on. So this meditation actually is practiced based on the teaching of Four Noble Truths. The first truth, the truth of suffering. The second truth, the truth of the cause of suffering, are the objects of mindfulness meditation or Vipassana meditation. So during the practice of mindfulness meditation, mindfulness meditators have to take the five aggregates of clinging as the object of meditations. We cannot take external objects as the object of mindfulness meditations. So meditators have to be mindful of all the mental and physical phenomena as they really occur. They do not have to think or identify this object belong to which aggregates or belong to which foundation of mindfulness. So there are varieties of mental and physical phenomena. So when mindfulness is not well developed, it's difficult to be mindful and note so many phenomena. In other words, meditators have to train the mind or mindfulness or directing the mindfulness to one object or one phenomenon. For example, in this tradition of practice, meditators begin the sitting meditation by being mindful of the movement of movements, or if the movements is not clear or disappear, meditators can mindful of the sitting postures and the touching points at the beginning of the sitting meditation. So there are various names giving to this object. For example, some call this object movement of movements as the primary objects, or sometimes it's also known as basic object, or another teachers also call this object as a home object. But it is only an object that help the meditators to begin the meditation. So here, primarily doesn't mean the most important. It just meant an object to begin the meditations. So when we follow the principle, the guideline, well, we have variety of phenomena that can be taken as an object. So it doesn't mean that other objects are called secondary objects. Every object or phenomenon in the practice of mindfulness meditation is equally important. When mindfulness meditators are mindful and note any object that's arising at that present moment, and they can mindful of it attentively, precisely, energetically, then they could gain some experiences or insight knowledge. So we do not emphasize on the mindfulness of the movement of abdomens or sitting, touching. We also emphasize the importance of mindful and note other objects, or especially the mental states. So when meditators are mindful of other objects, for example, pain, so when the painful sensation has disappeared, then if in the following moment there is no strong object arising, then meditators can come back to this movement of dormants, or the sitting postures and the touching points. If meditators did not come back to the movement of dormants, then if they are waiting for another strong object, then the mind may be wandering. Or if they make an effort to search for the object, then it also cause interruptions to the flow of mindfulness. So that's why mindfulness meditators have to come back to the movement of dormants. So that's why it is also known as a home object. So the movement is there, but it doesn't mean that it is permanent. That movement is also subject to arising and passing away. So even though it's called basic object, these basic objects still helpful throughout the course of practice. So it doesn't mean that when mindfulness meditators gain more and more experiences, they do not have to mindful of this basic object anymore. But it's possible that sometimes mindfulness meditators is not mindful of the movements of rising, falling during sitting meditation, or they seldom mindful of the movement of dormants because there are other phenomena that are arising and more dominant than the movements of dormant. For example, meditators experience many painful sensations, then they be mindful of no pain, one painful sensation after another. So sometimes meditators also can experience the process of rising, falling movements continuously. They may be able to mindful and know it for a longer and longer time. So here, meditators have to be careful that they mindful of the movements of rising, falling, well, process by process. So in other words, mindfulness meditators have to train the mindfulness, perceive or be aware. For example, rising process is one object. The falling process is another object. Then there's another rising process again, is another object. So in other words, when there's a process of rising movements appear, then the mindfulness will be arising and note that rising movements. Then when the rising process ended, by right the mindfulness or noting mind also come to the end, in other words disappear. When there's a falling process arising, then there's another process of mindfulness or noting mind arising. But sometimes when mindfulness meditators are not careful, they may fix the mindfulness there. So this mindfulness is following the process of rising to the process falling, to another process rising, another process falling. So there's only one mindfulness that has been following the process rising, falling repeatedly. So in that way, meditators may develop more concentration rather than mindfulness. So in the practice mindfulness meditation, we always emphasize development of mindfulness. When mindfulness becomes more and more constant, continuous, then meditators would attain deep concentration. So if meditators did not follow the guideline well, then they gain deeper and deeper concentrations. Even though they can realize the processes of rising, falling clearly, they may not able to realize the true nature of the mindfulness. So when they could not realize the true nature of mindfulness, then they may still have the idea that the mind is permanent. To mindful the mind is not easy at the beginning of practice. What the meditators mindful during at the beginning of practice is the mental states, or in other words, the mental associates cetasika. So as I mentioned before, a state of mind consists of citta and cetasika. So the state of mind depending on the cetasika. So if the greed lobha is the dominant, then we say this is a greedy mind. Or when anger is obvious, then we say this is an angry mind. So these mental associates or cetasika color the mind, or we can say make color the mind. So in other words, we are seeing the color of the mind. But if one want to perceive merely the mind, then one needs to sharpen the mindfulness, or mindfulness getting sharper, concentration getting deeper. Sometimes meditators say that they are watching the mind all the time. Most likely what they are watching is various state of mind, or the various color of the mind. So sometimes if they are not careful, they may be carried away by this state of mind, or various mental state of mind. Then they find it difficult to observe or to be mindful of the noting mind. So sometimes they totally forget about the body phenomena or body sensation. At the time, it seems like the mind is floating, could not perceive any body object. So in actual fact, this body phenomena is very helpful to the progress of meditation. One of the discourses or sutta say that when the body is master, then the mind is also master. The body is master here in meditation means one could mindful and realize the true nature of the body phenomena well. So in other words, one could mindful of the body phenomena, which consists of four material elements, as well as the body sensation clearly, realizing their characteristics well or precisely. So when they could mindful of the body phenomena better and better, they also could mindful the mind and the mental states better and better. If meditators could not realize the true nature of physical phenomena clearly, precisely, then it's even more difficult to realize the true nature of the mind and the true nature of the mental states. So when the practice is progressing, meditators usually can mindful and note the mental states quite instantly. Eventually, they also realize that the mindful or the previous mindfulness. In the commentaries, the consciousness perceiving the previous consciousness. It's because consciousness or the mindfulness only has the function to cognize or to know. So that's why sometimes the mindfulness is also known as the knowing mind. So this knowing mind merely take note of the arising and disappearing or passing away of the phenomena that was happening in the previous moment. So sometimes when your mindfulness and concentration are strong enough, when you realize that there's an object arising and passing away instantly, although you did not make any labeling, we can say that you have mindful of that object. So sometimes when the practice is going well, there's this mindfulness or the knowing mind arising very instantly with the object, then passing away together with object, then another object arising, another knowing mind arising. So there's no self or atta or behind this knowing mind. It's because mindfulness meditators realize that the object is a natural process. The arising and passing away of the mindfulness is also a natural process. In that way, meditators realizing the arising and passing away clearly. At the moment of realizing arising and passing away of the phenomena, meditators also experiencing their specific characteristics. So gradually, they also come to realize dukkha. So as you know, dukkha is defined as being oppressed oppressed constantly by the rapid arising and passing away of the mental and physical phenomena. So that's why it is said that 5 aggregates of clinging of the mental and physical phenomena are the truth of suffering to the mindfulness meditators or Vipassana meditators. So those who do not practice mindfulness meditation, Vipassana meditation, can never realize that 5 aggregates of clinging or the Nama-rupa is the truth of suffering. We cannot realize the truth of suffering by thinking, by analyzing, or by chanting. So this knowledge gained through mindfulness meditation at the time forestall, or the community say, forestall the false view of individuality or personality, or Sakaya Ditti, Atta Ditti. If one doesn't have this knowledge, one may think that I, who feels the pain, or my body is painful, and so on. So, as the mindfulness meditators realize that the object is always arising with the condition, then the commentary say that this knowledge forestall the annihilation view. So when mindfulness meditators could realize that the passing away of phenomena clearly, or dissolution of phenomena clearly, when the condition disappear, have passed away, then the mindfulness also disappear. So in that way, this knowledge help them to forestall the eternity view. So in order to realize that 5 aggregates or Nama-rupa is the truth of suffering, one has to fully develop the path. So as you practice mindfulness meditation, develop mindfulness from moment to moment, then you are also making an effort to develop the path. So as you know, all these are mental factors. Right understanding is a mental factors, right thoughts is a mental factors, and so on. So in this case, other factors, the Noble Eightfold Path, cannot arise without mindfulness. When you develop mindfulness, definitely you need to put forth mental effort. So mental effort is something very delicate. You need to know how much of effort to put forth. Sometimes meditators put too much effort, or sometimes effort is lacking, and so on. So the word right implies that when meditators could see the specific characteristics and the common characteristics clearly, precisely, then meditators have right effort at that moment. So as long as meditators could not realize the characteristics of the phenomena well, then they need to increase the effort gradually. What we emphasize, increase the effort gradually. Sometimes meditators increase the effort, then they begin to feel tension or pressure in the mind. This is normal. Then they should mindful of the mental tension or tightness of the mind until disappear. But in the course of increasing the effort, the tension getting stronger and stronger, and getting more difficult to be mindful of it, then meditators may reduce the effort slightly. So when they keep on practicing, learning from their experience, then they may able to put forth the right amount of effort. So it's because of effort, meditators could mindful of the movements precisely. So when mindfulness becomes more and more constant and continuous, then meditators would attain deeper and deeper concentration. Then during the practice, the function of right thoughts is leading the mind to the object. So this Sama Sankappa, right thoughts, is the factors of Vitakka. Vitakka means directing the mind to the object of meditations. So in other words, Vitakka has the function of directing the mind to the object again and again, or repeatedly. So when the mind is free from hindrances and defilements, then meditators attain deeper concentration. That concentration refers to Kanika Samadhi, or in the practice of mindfulness meditation. When there is a Kanika Samadhi, then insight knowledge arising realizes the characteristics of mental and physical phenomena. For example, the phenomena are arising and passing away instantly. So such knowledge that gained through personal experience or direct experience is known as right understanding, or samadhi. If meditators could not attain right concentration, then this right understanding cannot arise. So right understanding means direct experience, direct experience of or personal experience of mental and physical phenomena in their true nature. So at every moment of mindfulness, the other three factors of the path, that is known as Sila Magga, are also fulfilled. As you know, Sila Magga consists of three factors, or right speech, or Samavacya, or right action, Samakamanta, or right livelihood, Sama Ajiva. So at the moment of developing mindfulness, the mind abstain from wrong speech or wrong actions and wrong livelihood. So these three factors, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, are known as three kinds of viratis in the teaching of Abhidhamma. So they are part of the cetasika. So when meditators have deep concentration, then all these 8 factors of path will be arising. So this knowledge of the path, or the commentary say this knowledge of path, helps to forestall the moral inefficacy of action view. It is known as mundane knowledge because the defilements not yet uprooted. So if meditators keep on striving and gaining more and more knowledge or higher stages of knowledge, eventually they would realize or attain the path knowledge. So at that time, all these 8 mental factors will be found in the supramundane consciousness or lokutara citta. In the mundane consciousness, these mental factors are not present all the time. It's not present all the time. That's why the worldlings still have the tendency to violate the precepts. But in the noble one, these 8 factors of the path are found in their lokutara citta all the time. So that's why the noble one will never tell lies. These 8 mental factors are not found in the lokiya citta all the time. That's why the worldlings still have the tendency to violate the precepts. So in terms of the teaching of Abhidhamma, right understanding here is referred to the faculty of wisdoms, panya indriya. Then samma sankappa is the factors of vitakka in the teaching of Abhidhamma. Then right speech, right action, right attitude are 3 kinds of virati in the teaching of Abhidhamma. Then samma vayama, right effort, means viriya. Viriya is also one of the cetasika in the Abhidhamma. Sati is mindfulness, is one of the mental associate or cetasika. And right concentration is the one-pointedness of mind or ekaggata. It's because when meditators attain momentary concentration, kanika samadhi, at that time the mindfulness concentration is only on one object. In other words, that concentration lasts only for a moment. So when that momentary concentration occurs uninterruptedly, that means without any interruptions, and cannot be overcome by opposites. Opposite means hindrances. Then that type of concentration, like quite similar to absorption. So the concentration gained in the mindfulness meditation is quite deep. But because that mental state is also not permanent or lasts for a moment, due to the object also lasts for a moment. So in that way, when the path is fully developed, definitely meditators come to fully understand or in other words, the truth of suffering is fully understood. So when one see one truth, one also see the other truth. When you realize the truth of suffering, do you think that there's a person experiencing the truth of suffering? There's no self. When you develop the path, do you think there's a person or self developing the path? So there's no self. You cannot find a self or atta in this Four Noble Truths. So that's why the commentary, Visuddhimagga say that for there is suffering, but none who suffers. Doing exists, although there is no doer. Extinction is, but no extinguished person. Although there is a path, there is no goer or person, or there is no person walking on the path. So when you practice mindfulness meditation well, then you realize this teaching clearer and clearer. Then your defilements also getting bigger or lesser. Then eventually you could attain the path knowledge, uproot the mental defilements totally. So the Buddha always say, Tathagata only shows you the way, or points out the way or the path. You yourself have to strive. So we have to practice mindfulness meditation all the time, or as much as possible, whenever the condition allow, or the time or the place allow you to develop mindfulness. One should not think that I have enough practice. This is not a course. This is not a course. A course, like for example, you go to learn a computer lesson, take a course, then at the end given a certificate and so on. There's no certificates of there's no ceremony or graduations in this course. So you have to continue to strive until when? Maybe until the last breath. You cannot say, I've done enough, I don't have to meditate anymore. So I wish you have the confidence, the practice, always put forth effort to develop mindfulness as much as possible, so that you could realize this profound teaching, the core of the teachings of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, through your personal experience and enlightenment.
สาธุ สาธุ สาธุ